I'm Elaine Quijano. There's reaction worldwide following President Trump's announcement to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The move upends years of U.S. policy and threatens to inflame the Middle East. Mr. Trump also said he will direct the State Department to begin the process of moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Major Garrett has more from the White House.
We cannot solve our problems by making the same failed assumptions and repeating the same failed strategies of the past.
President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel rejects the policy of previous presidents and the recommendations of his secretaries of state and defense.
This is a long overdue step to advance the peace process and to work towards a lasting agreement.
But administration officials could point to no evidence this symbolically important shift in U.S. policy will accelerate peace talks. Mr. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is leading that White House effort and has yet to formulate a plan.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
In an appeal to his Christian conservative base, candidate Trump promised the embassy move. Today, he started that effort, which is expected to take at least 4 years.
A new embassy, when completed, will be a magnificent tribute to peace.
But the president made his decision last week at the urging of Vice President Mike Pence. Pence, himself a Christian conservative and staunch supporter of Israel, will travel to the region later this month.
There will, of course, be disagreement and dissent regarding this announcement.
Mr. Trump said the U.S. would not dictate the terms of a peace agreement, adding the U.S. would still support a two-state solution if that is what the Israelis and Palestinians agreed to.
This sacred city should call forth the best in humanity, lifting our sights to what it is possible, not pulling us back and down.
Senior administration officials anticipate Palestinians will, quote, blow off some steam, unquote, before coming to the realization yet again that the United States is central to any durable peace deal. And with this move, those officials say, the president is signaling the contours of that deal, Elaine, will get worse, not better, the longer the Palestinians wait.
Major, in your piece, you reported that the president made this decision at the urging of Vice President Pence. Do we know what Jared Kushner's position was on this move?
Jared Kushner and his right-hand person within the White House, Jason Greenblatt, supported this move. And the reason that they give here at the White House for that is, number one, the president chafed when he signed a waiver putting off this decision in June. Every 6 months, every U.S. president since 1995 has had to sign that waiver on whether or not to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The president did that in June, didn't like it, wasn't happy with the options he was presented at the time, and demanded a new formulation and a new policy that he could at least review and discuss with his senior advisors. As he did so, later this winter, the Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and the Defense Secretary James Mattis opposed that. Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, others within the White House supported it, as did the vice president. But the president is really the driving actor in all of this. And for Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt, who are still trying to formulate the contours of a peace plan, they don't have them yet. They believe that by doing this now, it creates a different dynamic in the region, possibly a volatile one for a period of time, but that will eventually die down. And when it dies down, there will be time to introduce a peace plan, which this White House has a hunch and a belief, but no evidence yet, can break through the logjam and create the possibility of talks between the Israelis and Palestinians on resolving all the other issues, borders, right of return, water rights, refugee status, that have been part of final status talks for years, but also, Elaine, significantly part of those so-called final status talks, Jerusalem. That now has been taken off because this president has changed U.S. policy and taken that one issue that had been reserved for those final status negotiations and solved it on U.S. and Israeli terms, probably intensifying, if for the moment or maybe for a longer duration of time, the sense of Palestinian grievance and isolation.
So analysts have been saying that this is certainly an enormous geopolitical risk being taken here by the White House. How are officials responding? Is their response essentially that it's a level of risk they're willing to accept?
Certainly it's a level of risk that they're willing to accept, and a risk they believe is overwrought, anticipatorily overwrought. They're just saying it's not going to be as bad as you think it's going to be. And as the president quite clearly outlined at the very top of his remarks today, adhering to this policy and ignoring what the president said and what the U.S. Congress has said since 1995 is a historical and geographical reality. That is to say, Israel recognizes its capital as Jerusalem, and its chief ally in the world, the United States, ought to as well, simply states the obvious, and it provides clarity and rigor to the relationship between the United States and Israel and the relationship between the United States and the Palestinians. It just clears up an issue that should not have had any ambiguity around that. And the administration's hunch and belief, because it does go against lots of precedent and lots of previous administration history, both Republican and Democratic, and an entire foreign policy establishment. The hunch is it won't be as bad as you anticipate, and if this administration, which had promised to think differently about a wide range of foreign policy questions and conundrums, didn't do this differently, it would be not only not fulfilling a campaign promise, it would be undermining its own credibility, because with this president, when he promises on the campaign, he wants to deliver in office, and this falls into that category.
So this was a campaign promise that is now, in the eyes of the administration, being delivered on. Why make this announcement now, though?
There is one aspect of that has a kind of credibility in terms of another waiver deadline, which was on December 4th. That's when the president had to make a decision. Okay, but he could have decided, as he in fact did today, to sign that other waiver, not moving the embassy immediately, but setting in a process. But it was that date the administration likes to point to that says, well, we had to do something. Well, it could have been put off another 6 months, but the fact is President Trump really didn't like signing the waiver in June, and he wanted a different policy, and he wanted to do something on this issue and not have questions rise again about it 6 months from now. He wanted clarity, and I think it's also worth pointing out, as this administration gets to the end of its first year in office, it wants to have a list of campaign promises made on the campaign trail and kept in office. And going back to this still in formulation peace plan from Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt, doing this now before there is a peace plan takes it off the table and basically tells the Palestinians, as I suggested in the close of my piece, this isn't going to get any better for you, and we're taking this one issue off. So if you think this president is going to create a better deal for you in the future than the one you have now, look at what he just did. He took one of the issues you thought was going to be kept to the end and decided it. So your range of options and negotiable items is narrowing, not expanding. So you better come to the peace table and get what you can get.
Seismic shift in U.S. policy. Major Garrett at the White House first. Major, thank you.